Today, because Hunter and I have so much to cover, we are going to make this episode a part 1, and then part 2 will release next week. So hang tight. Part 2 will be out soon. In the meantime, enjoy this episode. Hi, you're listening to She Shield, your one-stop pod for all topics personal safety. I'm your host, Sofia, and my goal is to educate women and men on concealed carry, martial arts, and all topics self-defense. Before we start today, listener, please take a moment to rate this podcast. I know on Spotify, it's about 5 stars at the top of the page, and all you have to do is click on that, give an honest review. It takes a few seconds, and it really just helps us get our name out there. If this is your first episode, welcome. I hope that you enjoy. This episode is sponsored by Big Tex Ordnance, your soon-to-be favorite retailer for all of your firearms needs. BTO believes in only selling high-quality gear for responsibly armed citizens, as well as providing pre- and post-sale support. BTO values firearms training and supports firearms instructors nationwide. They even pay for their own staff to train with high-level instructors to ensure that when you as the consumer reach out, you are taken care of. Today, we have Hunter Constantine on the show. This is something I've been looking forward to for a while, ever since I got to meet Hunter in person at the 2024 SHOT Show in Las Vegas. It was actually kind of out of the blue. It was happenstance, Hunter, I think you were talking to Riley Bowman, and I looked over and I was like, oh my gosh, I finally get to meet you in person. So I'm so happy that you are here today.
Awesome to finally connect on here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored. I love connecting with fellow shooters and getting good information out for the listeners out there and everything like that. So hopefully I can share some of my perspectives and they find some value to it, learn something, have some fun, and just all around have a good time, whether they're eating lunch or driving to work or whatever your listeners do while listening to this podcast. I know it's probably a wide array of things.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for coming on. I listened to the episode you and Riley did on the Concealed Carry podcast, and I felt so encouraged just to hear your story on that episode alone. And I'm excited to hear it here as well. I feel like I kind of cheated by listening to that first, but in the meantime, I would love for you to officially introduce yourself to the listeners.
Sure. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Hunter Constantine. I'm a professional competition shooter. I shoot matches all over the country. It's my 5th year competition shooting, so I'm still semi new to the sport compared to some of my peers. I do some training. I do a lot of content stuff on Instagram and YouTube, and then I also have my own product, Concealed Carry Belt. And so there's a bunch of different avenues that we can take this path down, but I'm deeply rooted into the competition scene, and I wholeheartedly believe that shooting competition is the best way to improve your skill and build confidence on your guns, your firearms, and whatever platform you're using, because it's the pressure on demand, the performance on demand. And that was my initial thought of getting into competition shooting, was I wanted to be able to protect myself better and shoot better. And the best shooters are always competition shooters. So I was like, I need to do this. And it turns out you can meet a lot of friends and you can have a lot of fun doing it. And I made it my life now. And so we are full steam ahead, train's not stopping. We left the station and we are we don't have a railway here in the United States. I was going to say like the transatlantic railway, but it's not that sexy. Either way, trains left the station and we're doing it. And so I'm here to help promote competition shooting, get people more comfortable with their guns, and do it in an entertaining way that isn't maybe like the traditional drill sergeant, people yelling at you, super macho man. Let's just have some fun, shoot some guns, learn something, and get better,
Absolutely. Yes. So all the analogies you mentioned today must be sexy or we will have to start the show over.
Yes. Oh, man, that's a lot of pressure, but we'll work on it. We'll see what happens.
Yes. I think you can handle it.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you so much for introducing yourself. I already know this, but I want to hear you say on this episode, how did you get started in competition shooting?
Okay. Not that sexy of a story, but it is kind of random. So I'm going to First, I'll speak when I picked up my first gun, and then when I got into competition shooting. So, when I was 18, my uncle, for my birthday, took me to Gunsight. That was the first place I ever fired a pistol. Was Gunsight in Prescott, under some excellent instruction and supervision. And then instructor Ed Stock. And I remember very first shot out of a pistol, first shot ever, was dead center on the X of a 10 ring, just like silhouette target. And I remember just talking shit, 18, being cocky and like, Ed, pretty good, huh? Oh, it's not that hard. I can. And it was a commander length, 1911, like factory ammo, just something brutal to shoot. And just looked at me calmly, didn't even react to me at all, and just goes, do it again. And I literally for the next 3 days didn't hit that X once. All around it, I got close, maybe just like a little point of the X or something, but never in the center of it. He was right, and I needed a lot of work. That introduced me, and I was like, okay, guns are pretty cool. You know, we grew up with video games and the movies and everything, so it's kind of ingrained into our culture a little bit. Where I was like, this is badass. I bought a gun shortly after that. Had some guns in college, but we didn't really do anything. We'd go to like farm fields and shoot at stumps. Occasionally, I think we got some steel at like the very end of my time in school. And then I didn't really seriously start shooting until I moved to Arizona. And like 2019 was the first year that I really dove into it. 2018, I think at the end of it, I shot just a couple matches, like a couple IDPA matches and like some local steel matches. And then I think February, I just looked this up the other day because we were talking about, I think February of 2019 was my first USPSA match. And then March of 2019, I was the match director for USPSA because they stepped down. And so I was a new shooter to the sport, running my club's matches for guys that have world titles and national titles, and people have been shooting for decades. And that kind of helped this baptism by fire and get started a lot sooner. And I used to be a big cyclist on bicycles, and I was riding hundreds of miles a week. I had some sponsors and things like that, and I moved to Tucson, Arizona, because I've toured to Tucson. It's a big riding community, and I knew competition shooting was a thing, but I didn't know what it was. So it was like in the back of my head, and I literally just Googled like how to shoot competition. Then I found Pima Pistol Club, and I called them. I'm like, hey, I've never done this before. I have interest in doing this. Talk to the match director, come down to the match, and I was so bad. Like so bad. Like the first like 6-10 matches, I was literally dead last. And if are you familiar with IDPA scoring? It's like time plus.
Somewhat. I've shot an
Somewhat.
IDPA match, but that doesn't mean I know
Okay.
anything.
We'll educate everybody listening too, because there might be some people who don't know. So you have 3 zones on the target. You have a center circle. I think it's 8 inches or maybe 10 inches, but it's down 0. The next outside is plus 1 second. The delta zone or the Charlie zone is +1. The delta zone is +3 on the outside edge. And then if you miss, it's like +3 seconds. And it's all time plus. So it's your time plus whatever time you accumulated from basically being inaccurate or shooting out of order or whatever it is. And for these local matches, there's only 5 stages, maybe 80 to 100 rounds total for the match. And I'd be plus 100 seconds. So on average, every shot was outside of that down 0 zone. And I mean, I was bad. I was finished dead last. But what it taught me, I started making friends. I was hanging out with like all the old dudes, like the FUDs basically. And I was having a great time. And I realized that competition shooting is not only just the competition in shooting, but it's a social aspect. And you just get to hang out at the range for 5, 6, 7 hours. You get to hear cool stories from people. Like the conversations you have there are priceless. And my first year, 2019, I prioritized shooting as many matches as I could. So I shot like 140 matches and like 3 major matches my first year of shooting, which is unheard of. And there's not many places in the country you can shoot that many matches in a single year. But all those conversations, I just got like these little tiny nuggets of information from people. And they would help me out with gear where I wanted to, like, I didn't have IDPA legal gear. I had a battle belt with like a leg strap, a Zev Glock 34 with a comp, like the gold coated barrel, like all the Gucci stuff. And I thought I was so high speed and I sucked. So bad. So first of all, guys, if you think your gear can help you get your accuracy, it's wrong. Just practice does, and purposeful practice. But um, I found the community so welcoming where they're like, "Oh, I've got an extra Glock holster. I'll bring it next match. Oh, I've got different mag pouches for you. I've got the right mags for you. Whatever it is, or you should try minimum power factor ammo. I'll bring you ammo for the match next time." And people were just overwhelmingly nice. And it was so refreshing because I didn't really find um, the same thing with other hobbies that I dabbled into, where everyone was just so excited to have a new shooter there and they just wanted to help. Um, you'll get a couple thorns in the garden, but that comes with everything, you know. But generally speaking, everybody was nice. They wanted to help out, and I was like, "These are my people. This is great." And like it just, we all shared this common mindset, and we all want to help each other and get better. So I started putting more effort into it. I found out about dry fire and started dry firing more. And I'd dry fire before work and after work every single day. Every weekend was shooting at least 2 matches. And that was my life for like the first 14 months of shooting. And I hit Grandmaster in that first 14 months. And so it was a very steep progression um, line, I guess. And it just comes with time. And so I went from not shooting at all in 2018. By early 2020, I'm now a Grandmaster in USPSA, and I've run the matches at the club for a full year. And so it was just a full 180 flip of just getting completely enveloped in the competition shooting world and the firearms community and things like that. And it was great. And I met, still to this day, some of my best friends in Tucson after I moved is from shooting community. And now I have pockets of friends all over the country from shooting around this wonderful nation that we live in, you know. And so if I go to Dallas, I got people to call there. If I go to Colorado, I got people there, and so on and so forth. And so it's cool to have a network of friends around the whole country where if I'm visiting somewhere, like I will get slack if I don't hit them up and at least get a meal with them, you know. But I love it. And just kind of building that intimate community, you know, for yourself and your friend groups and stuff like that. And from there, it just progressed into even more. And now I get to help people with their journey and uh, get people a little bit higher speed. And I like to think I've influenced a good amount of people to get into competition shooting. And it's like, I think it's one of the best communities in the firearms space, period. And so if you guys haven't shot a competition, I highly recommend going to try it. Um, who knows where it can take you, and like the confidence you have on your gun after shooting matches is sky high. Where I have no question to a certain extent of picking up any gun and feeling like I could take an accurate shot with it. Where when I first started, it was blind confidence, I guess, where like I think that I could do that, but if we put it on paper on a timer, the likelihood of me actually making those shots is very slim. And I've seen it training a lot. And I train law enforcement, civilians, some military personnel, you know, where they touch a gun a handful of times a year and they think that it's enough. But really we need to, like, I touch a gun every day, period. And that is, I think it's important. So it was a full 180 flip from not shooting any guns up until when I was 18, kind of shooting a little bit when I was in college, and then just going full bore, pedal to the metal, 6 gear pinned. Let's try to be one of the top shooters in the country.
Was that a bike reference? The car?
Yeah, like car, like race car, you know,
Oh,
like
okay.
6 gears.
Okay.
6 gears usually like the last gear,
I'm with you. I'm
and
with you.
like
I didn't
pedal to
know
the
if you
metal.
were
Okay, pedal
trying
though. I
go
get it.
to
Yeah. Either way, we're going fast. We're going fast. That's all that matters. Is we're going fast.
one. I didn't know
Yeah.
if you were tying in your
Yeah.
bike journey, but now I see it's just my lack of
No.
knowledge in this area. Very cool. Well, again, Hunter, thank you so much for sharing your story here. Something you said truly resonated with me, and I've learned this myself as I get further into my journey, and that's that in order to get good at shooting, you can use competition as practice. I feel like a lot of people don't know
Of course.
that competition and going to a local competition can be your form of practice. When I first heard that, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's bullshit," right? But it wasn't until I started doing it and then I started getting better and started seeing improvements that I started to truly believe it. And if anything, it wasn't just the physical game, the actual shooting, it was also the mental game, being able to kind of test out the way I spoke to myself between
Hmm.
stages. Anytime I, really just focused on those negative thoughts, I would do really badly in the following stages. But anytime I allowed myself to breathe and I focused on what I did well and what I wanted to reinforce in the next stage, I would do so much better.
Absolutely.
I think it's so incredible that you have come so far in such little time. So, what I'm hearing is that the secret to doing well is being the match director at your local range. Is that true?
Um, I yeah, I wouldn't say it's true, but it'll definitely help because I look at competition. There's two like little skill areas. And on one side you have your firearm skills, your fundamentals, your mechanics of like drawing your gun, reloading your gun, shooting your gun. The other side is the competitive skill. And that comes from your stage planning, um, and just like sequencing of targets and things like that, and just like understanding what you can get away with. In some matches, you can have a piece of steel that activates a moving target, and so when you first start out, you shoot the steel, then you wait for the activating or the moving target, and that's it. And then as you start getting your skill advantage, you're like, oh, I think I could squeeze in one more target. So I go activator, target two, then the mover, and then you start kind of playing the game of finding out efficiencies and blending positions and shooting on the move. And so I break it down into kind of two separate categories: like know how to shoot your gun, know how to shoot the match, and then when you have like a good mix of those two, is when you're going to start finding a lot of like success and those like little exponential bumps in your match results and your skill, because um, both of them start becoming second nature. And so match directing, I had to make 5 to 7 stages per match, twice a month, 2 times a month, and for the most part it was just me and my buddy Cody building the entire match by ourselves with no help from anybody, and it was brutal. But I was dedicated to the sport and to do it, and so I had to come up with a fresh 10 to 14 stages every month. And I'm getting input from these guys that have been doing it for so long. They're like, you need to be able to shoot the stage 3 or 4 ways. I'm like, this is hard. I'm like, what do you mean? And it really flexed those muscles though. And so we were building really good stages, and I'd make the stages really hard, because if you practice really hard local stages, when you go to a major match, they seem easy. And so I was just like, it was even hard for those guys who've been doing it for a while, and they're like, these are really challenging, we really like this. So I just kept it with the same intensity level, or there's sometimes I went got a little too close to the sun on stuff, where they're like, oh, like every single person in the match got a miss on this stage, that's probably not a good stage, something's probably a little too hard or something. But what that did is that it jump started my competition skill, because like the stage planning is a big part of it to be successful and shave a lot of time off. I think it's low hanging fruit for your competition finish. And so I had to build these stages, and when I would go to other matches, it was like I felt like Zach Galifianakis in The Hangover with all the numbers popping up behind me, and I could just walk, like get on a stage and walk and be like, okay, I know what my plan is. There's no debating it. I didn't have to think about it that much. Sometimes you come across something that's very advantageous, like if you can cut a position down or something, if someone shows you. But generally speaking, it was like walk onto the stage, identify the targets. I know what the plan is. There's no debating it in my head. There's no worrying about it or anything. It's just like, this is the plan. Here's where I'm going to reload. I need to hit these 4 positions. And it was just done, locked in. And I see a lot of new shooters struggling with the stage plan and having the mental capacity to remember the targets and what targets you shoot from where. And so match directing, and even helping out with matches too. I'd help set up for IDPA. I'd help set up for our local steel matches. I was just ingrained with everything going on. And it helps you jumpstart that skill into understanding what is going on for the match. So, and again, now you have another 4 or 5 hour block with people setting up stages. And guess what you're talking about? It's probably guns and competition shooting. So you get more of those conversations, and they're priceless, because you don't know what you're going to ask that day, or what you're going to talk about, or what little nugget of information you're going to receive from them. And Like we got, like I said, some people in my club have been shooting since the 80s and 90s, and it could just be one simple little thing, and it just sticks with you and helps you improve. And so, I just wanted to hang around those people, have those conversations, help set up, and like you're learning more and you're increasing like your stage planning skills and your competitive skills all in the same time. So it definitely helps. It was a huge bonus to have that opportunity right when I started out. And so I also encourage people to go help out at their local clubs. And so if you have extra time, if you whatever it is, if you have the time to go set up and help, the match director is going to absolutely love you and adore you. The other staff, it's just good all around, and just like, do what you can to give back. We're able-bodied people, and like we're fit, and we can go help, and it means a lot to them, because typically what I've seen, a lot of the match directors are, at least in our area, they're older people, and yeah, like I know that when I'm in my late 60s, I probably won't want to be hammering nails into the ground for fault lines. And so I remember I'd like take the hammer and the nail bucket and just say, "Guys, just set everything up. I'll nail everything down." And they were like, "Oh, this is great." A lot easier to carry a target stand out there with some sticks than it is on your hands and knees with a hammer. But I was like, I was 24 then. And I'm like, yeah, I'll hammer all the nails in. I got it, guys. Don't worry. But it took some stress off them, and so on and so forth. So yeah, the two little skill spheres though: competition skill, shooting skills.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That makes a lot of sense. I almost didn't say that joke because I thought it sounded corny, but now I feel like we have this fresh perspective on the podcast. I haven't had anyone come on yet and talk about being a range director and how that has helped them on their USPSA journey. So, again, thanks for sharing that.
Yep.
I actually recently did my first 2-day match where the stages were the same on days 1 and 2. So I was able to try out some new stage plans that I didn't do the
Different,
first
yeah.
day because they seemed a bit too hard. And I found that it was an incredibly illuminating experience for where I'm at in my journey. And I wish I could even do it more often now.
Did you do better on day 1 or day 2?
Yeah, so I actually did better on the second day, and it took this experience as well as mentoring someone through their first USPSA match for it to really click for me, like the stage planning part of competition. Before, I would just rely on the highest ranking shooter and I would kind of copy what they did. But when I had to take my friend, his name is Logan, when I took him to the match and I
Sure.
had to kind of teach him the little I knew about stage planning, it really got me thinking about it. And because of that, I felt kind of encouraged and compelled to do it on my own. So I really started thinking about what do I want to do on the stage, and then what are the highest ranking shooters doing, and started comparing that.
Sure.
And because of these two
Yeah.
experiences, I feel like I've learned so much. So what would you recommend for someone that is fairly newer to competing? Should they make their own stage plan, or should they just rely on high level shooters, or what do you think?
Okay. I would say make your own stage plan, figure it out yourself, then go ask the high level shooter how they're shooting it. And then see where your plans overlap, see where they're different, and then ask yourself if they're different because there's a different skill level involved, or if it's an efficiency thing on the stage. Because there's sometimes where um, I'm training newer shooters are squatted with me, and they'll be like, "What's your stage plan?" I'm like, "I'm doing this because of this, and my skill level. I can get away with more because my skill level is higher. Like, I know you're not going to be able to make this 25-yard partial shot in this like very tight position you need to hit or something. So this is my plan, and I'll show you my plan if you want to try that. But based on your skill level or how I've seen them shoot, I'm like, this is the stage plan I would do if I was in your shoes, to try to mitigate the risk, because that's a part of the stage planning, is like figuring out what's how to be risk averse with how you're shooting the target arrays and everything. So yeah, like a 25-yard mini popper, that sucks. That sucks for me still, even. I'm like, I gotta really make sure I'm gonna hit it or something like that. And then I was like, well, can I shoot it while I'm creeping on the move a little bit? or something like new shooter. I wouldn't even want to put them in that position. If there's an opportunity to shoot a little bit closer, I'd say it's probably going to be more advantageous to take, if it's 5 yards of movement or something, it's like go take those 5 yards closer, those like 3 steps or 4 steps, and hit the steel rather than trying to go to war with it where you're putting 5-6 rounds downrange to get the hit. But the biggest thing is make the stage plan yourself, so you're working on that skill, then compare it to the top shooter to see, like I said, see where they overlap. And you'd be surprised a lot of the time where they're like, yeah, it's the same plan, and like a lot of it's just common sense. And I shoot stages that is easiest for me to remember. It might not be the most efficient plan, but if I walk through a stage and I'm like, I like how this flows, even though I'm adding like an extra position or something, or maybe I'm shooting something out of like a different sequence, because that's going to be the easiest to remember in my brain. And if something happens where I get thrown off my plan and my focus lapse because I have a malfunction or I trip or whatever reason, X, Y, or Z, fill it in, that I can snap back into that plan. And that's like my natural path of where my brain wants to go on the stage for the targets. And so I get in debates with some other top shooters where they're like, why are you shooting it that way? I'm like, it's just easier for me to remember, period. And it usually just comes down to execution, and like I said, sometimes, like I remember there was one stage, I think it was the Northern Arizona Classic a couple years ago, where you could like basically balance on the edge of a fault line and shoot a target across the bay, and you eliminate like 11 yards of movement. And so it's like you take a hard lean, it's a risky shot, and it was just a big steel popper, but that 11 yards of movement, I don't know, 2 to 4 seconds shaved off your overall stage time for taking like, I mean, it took more time to acquire the sights with the lean, but again, it was like, all right, like that's not something I would normally do because I don't want to shoot in a unconventional position if I don't have to. But in that case, it was worth it when you get to shave 4 whole seconds off of it was like a 25-second stage, and if you did the lean, you're shooting in like 20 to 21 seconds, which is huge when it comes down to scoring. And so, but again, just try to shoot the stage as easy as possible. Compare your stage plans with the top shooter, and then see what you can get away with your skill level.
Are you searching for a brand you can trust when it comes to shooting and gun care products? Look no further than Birchwood Casey. Since 1948, serious shooters, avid collectors, and professional gunsmiths have relied on Birchwood Casey. They've been in the game for over 70 years, providing us with products that have stood the test of time. From their legendary True Oil gunstock finish to the dependable Perma Blue, Birchwood Casey's commitment to quality is unmatched. Birchwood Casey has also revolutionized the way we train and improve our shooting skills with their innovative Shoot NC targets. These targets let you see your shots instantly, making it easier than ever to track your progress and become a better marksman. Head over to birchwoodcasey.com today and discover the products that have earned the trust of shooters worldwide. Use code SHESHIELD to save and to support the podcast. That's SHESHIELD at checkout. Yeah, I love that. And that's kind of what I tried to tell Logan. I didn't want to instill this dependency on other people in him. So I kind of told him to start thinking about, what targets do you think you would see first and want to shoot first? And I can tell he's already building in his head, and then he's looking and observing to see what others are doing. His first match, he just shot super well, lots of alphas. I think only 6 Charlies the entire match. So very accurate. I do remember telling him for his first match, he should definitely just focus on not disqualifying, just focus on having a good time, not breaking the 180, and just following all of the range rules. It was interesting. A lot of the guys were giving him feedback like, hey, shoot faster, shoot faster. And I felt like for where he was at, shooting accurately and following the rules was the best thing he could have done. So it was interesting to hear that. And at one point, I wanted to tell people to just stop talking, just leave him alone, because he was doing the right thing, in my opinion. That's what I was told at my first match, and ultimately it left a great impression, and I wanted to come back for more.
Yeah, it's too soon. So when you're shooting these local matches, I like to set little goals for myself outside of your placement of finish on the scoreboard. So some matches I will have accuracy as my goal. So I'll try to shoot an all alpha match or a down zero match. And then on the other side, there's some matches where I'll try to shoot as fast as I possibly can while remaining safe, of course. Safety is always at the most importance for every match, but trying to raw time everybody on the stages, which basically is just like how long it takes you from when the timer goes off to your last shot. And so regardless of what classification they are, what division they're shooting, I want the fastest time, period, which usually comes with some questionable hits. But at a certain point, it will tell you, like, you can shoot that fast. And there's other elements that you need to add to it to pick your accuracy up, but it's typically vision based. And so I always tell people if they're just naturally fast, not to slow down. Wait till your processing power can increase and you can see what you're doing at a faster speed. You're just not used to it yet, and it's reps just like anything else. Like if you're going to the gym and working on lifts, or if you're reading and your vocabulary is increasing, a third grade student in third grade isn't going to have the same vocabulary as a PhD student, and so it's the same thing with your speed while you're shooting the gun and how fast you can process the targets. Where there's some drills I've practiced that is just I'm really focusing on that processing power and how much information I can take in a short period of time, and when that translates to a match and going through a target sequence, I'm still processing where I'm fully thinking about like what's the next target, what do my sights look like, can I just slap the trigger and disrespect this target, or do I need a more focused deliberate trigger pull on it? And I'm processing all this information as I'm going, and in my head I was like, wow, that took so much time. But since I've worked on this processing power, and I'll look at the videos after and be like, wow, that was kind of fast, and stuff. But in my head, it's almost like it's moving in like slow motion. The movie Clock Stoppers from like way back when?
Oh, with Nicolas Cage?
I don't know if he was in it, but they had the little watch and they'd go in like.
Wait, yes.
And
Yes,
they'd
I
like go hyper time
absolutely
and everyone's
do.
moving slow.
Yes.
That's how I feel sometimes when I'm shooting stages where like I'm processing so fast that I feel like I'm going slow, but really I'm still going full speed because the processing power is caught up, because shooting it's a visual and a thinking game more than anything else. And so it's just like, how fast can you process that information? And that's where you'll see a difference from a new shooter on a stage compared to an experienced one, where the new shooter's like, okay, I got to position. Okay, my gun is up. Okay, I found my sight. Okay, I'm pulling the trigger. Okay, I'm transitioning to the next target. Okay, I pulled the trigger. Okay, I'm transitioning to the next target. Okay, I need to reload now. Okay, I need to move. And it's like these like step-by-step things where there's a pause in between each thought. And as you practice more and increase that, it just flows naturally, where like your gun's up, coming in position, you rip through the targets, and it looks like one smooth, one smooth, fluid movement with your gun, and you're out of there and reloading as you're moving and stuff. And it's just, it takes time and it takes practice. But that's like the key to it, is just like increasing that processing power and being able to combine and blend those thoughts to get you through that stage successfully.
Absolutely.
So it's a fun game. So play those games when you're shooting your first matches. First one, always be safe. Don't get DQ'd. Second one, shoot penalty free. No mics, no shoots, no fault lines or no foot faults. Don't forget any targets, that type of stuff. And then once you get that baseline of safety and finishing the match without penalties, then you start playing the game of speed and accuracy and figuring out, what you need to do and what you need to get through.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. So what I'm hearing is kind of the like physical side of things, as far as just to like really break it down into like some general boxes. As far as the mental game goes, when is it important to start reinforcing yourself positively, focusing on what to work on, as opposed to kind of like negatively punishing yourself and focusing on what you did badly?
Well, if you're competitive, you're never going to be satisfied. Like I leave every practice disappointed. and just mad that I can't shoot as well as I wanted to. And then there's been a handful of matches where I'm like, yeah, I did good. I feel good about it. But most of the time, I'm leaving the match being like, let me think of the last match that I shot. Uh, Last pistol match I shot, I had a hard time with steel targets on the move outside of 15 yards, which is a hard shot for anybody at any skill level. Like, it's just very high risk to do that. But in my head, I should be able to do that. Why can't I do that? You know what I mean? And so I would take these little nuggets I'd get from the match of things I needed to work on, and that's what I'd hammer in practice, drive them home, go to the next local match or major match, try them out. I usually had those dialed in, and then something else would pop up, and so it's a constant revolving wheel of figuring out what you need to practice, practicing that stuff, figuring out the new stuff, and as you keep going through this wheel, because it's very repetitive. Like, I had to, like, last fall, I had to relearn how to press my trigger on my gun, which sounds crazy because I shoot at a high level, but like, for whatever reason, I just like wasn't connecting with it. Or there's times where I've had to like relearn my grip because it just gets like, sometimes the fundamentals just get lacking in practice, and like it's still fine, and like it's still competitive, but I know it like dipped down a little bit. Like, if we have all these different bars of skills, you're kind of like taking and borrowing. But as you're doing that, all of them are getting slowly increasingly higher, and you keep pushing yourself. And um, at matches, the mental game is huge. Like, I think like all the grandmasters for the most part, and like, let's say like top 25 shooters, we all have the same skill level. We can all shoot the targets at the same speed, and we can get away with stuff. And if it was practice, generally speaking, every target in every match we could get 2 alphas on. And what flutters your brain is the mental part of it, where now it's competitive, or you watch someone have a really good run, you're like, oh, I need to hit this mark, and if you don't hit it, now you have to deal with this turmoil internally of like, wow, I needed to hit that and I didn't hit it, so what do I do now? Do I push on the next stage? That's usually detrimental, but that's our natural reaction, is like, I didn't do as well, I need to push harder. And if you push harder, now you're not focused on just fundamentals and what you need to do to get the score that you want. And so it's like this whole thing. um, the most success I've found is limiting myself for like sulking about a bad stage and praising for a good stage. So if I have a bad stage, yeah, I'll be pissed off for like 10 to 30 seconds right after I shoot it. And I'm like restuffing my mags. I'm like, you're dumb. Why'd you do that? Like, you got flustered and X, Y, and Z happened. Whatever it is. And then if I have a good stage where I just absolutely crush it and hammer, I'm like, good job. Okay, next stage. And just a very short period of time to praise or sulk, and then just move on to the next stage. And I usually move on by just being social and like joking around and like staying positive and just, helping other people out or whatever it is, or however I can kind of distract myself a little bit from
Mm-hmm.
thinking about the match or the stages. And that's helped out a lot, because I think sometimes I've watched people get really cocky and they're shooting great, like world class shooting, and they deserve to be cocky, and sure, but if you're riding that wave real high and then something bad happens, it's a far crash down. And
Interesting.
like area 4 last year, I was battling it out, and I was shooting with somebody, and like they were like stage win after stage win after stage win, and then they had a malfunction and everything came apart, full come apart on the stage. And
Mm.
they did like a 60% run instead of like like high 80 low 90% run, and they couldn't beat it. And then the next stage they threw like a mic and a no shoot, and they got another 60%. And I remember just poking at him, being like, and he's used to winning all the time, so he's just coming through that thing where like every stage is mine. And I just started poking fun at him, being like, oh, like, you are, um what's the Bane quote? You merely adopted tanking a stage. I was born into it. And
Nice.
like,
Okay.
because I'm like, my mental game's strong in that aspect where I'm like, I don't
Right.
care. Like, at the
Right.
end of the day, like, yes, I want to get titles. Yes, I want to win. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. Like, I'm here to do this, to hang out with friends and be social, and getting accomplishing accomplishing your goals and winning matches is just a byproduct of my intentions of going to the match,
Mm.
which I don't think are the same for other high level shooters. There's some guys that are just in and out of the range day in, day out. Their only thing is, I want to go win nationals. And yes, I want to win nationals too. And I'm working towards that. And I still go and practice. But if I'm not having fun doing this, then I don't really see the point. And so if there comes to a point where competition shooting isn't fun anymore, I'm probably not going to do it.
Yeah.
And that's not a common mindset, but it takes a lot of the pressure away. Just because if you think about it, scores really don't matter. What matters is like the relationships you built on the range, the people you're with, or like the confidence in your concealed carry and like defending yourself where, like I said before, like I feel confident picking up any gun at this point and being able to make accurate shots with it, and like that is worth way more in my mind than a title. I mean, national title's cool. It's cool to say. National champion, sure.
Pretty cool.
But it's not everything. And not everybody's going to be that. There's only one per division per year.
Yeah.
So it's like the real success comes from just making those relationships, having fun. And, we all want to do better. So as you progress and you do start winning some stuff, that's just an extra bonus on top of it all,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I appreciate this because it kind of feels like permission to have fun when you hear that from someone like you, a grandmaster. When you say, like it's the only reason to do it, or like I wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy it. It's almost this form of validation that I know I need, and I feel like a lot of people need out there. I remember I have to kind of be careful when I talk about certain people, but I remember someone who was teaching me USPSA related techniques. I went and shot a match and we squatted together, and watching him shoot a match was stressful. I was like, man, like, do I need to be that in my head? Like, I was actually just having fun, and it was a match that I was with Lisa. So we were like just on cloud nine, like being able to shoot together. Like that's just the best feeling in the world. Then this person that I look up to, high level shooter, is like grunting anytime something doesn't go well. And almost like you could almost tell he was like annoyed with Lisa and I having a good time. And we chatted a lot after that competition. She and I was like, dude, were we being, inappropriate? Like, were we laughing too loud? Were we, did we paste our targets like we were supposed to? Like what was up? And she was like, no, like we did fine. Like, and we just had so much fun, and, definitely had to like think about like, what did I do? I definitely like blamed myself. But like other matches I've been at with her or other friends where we're all having a good time. Like everyone in the squad is having a good time. No one's upset. No one's grunting.
That's
and like the energy is just different. Say it again.
Yeah. That's where the magic happens.
Yes. Right.
When
everyone's just flowing.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
That is my goal for every major match, that like, I want to be the glue for our squad to make that energy happen, because everybody shoots better. And the tryhards, it's not fun.
No.
And like IPSC Nationals last year in the rain, I shot 18 matches, sun up to sundown in the rain. It was miserable. Okay, like soaking wet, like every step, water just coming through your boots. Targets have plastic bags on them. Your optics are getting wet. Like my hands were pruned by the end of the day.
Oh, I bet.
Which like affects the grip on your gun. And there's people on the squad that are like, this is the most fun I've had at a major match, simply because our squad, we're all working together to like get the stage reset. And like someone would have like a 50-second run on a 20-second stage, and we were all hyping that person up, being like, that second target array, when you went paper, steel, paper, you crushed that, man.
Yes.
And like hyping him up, and like everybody's high-fiving. And it's like, he's probably a mid-pack or lower pack shooter. And overall, the stage wasn't that impressive, but it was the best that he could shoot. and we recognized that, and so we were hyping them up on it, and we were all just having fun, even though it was literally the worst conditions I've ever shot in. And it's a similar result where you can just help people get out of that slump. And when people are like, especially if they're like cursing under their breath mid stage, I know they're not focused.
Absolutely.
They got out of their zone, and it's important to stay in that flow state while you're shooting. And so even if you have a little hiccup or something, like it happens, I have hiccups all the time, and top shooters do too. Like we rarely shoot a perfect match, like almost nobody does. And so it's just, you got to roll with the punches. And so I would find people that you get to be on cloud nine with.
Absolutely.
So like when you and Lisa are doing your thing and having fun and laughing, that's what it's about. And just like you said, your results will show it too, because you're not as worried about what's happening because you're in the moment. And you're in a positive state of mind. And that positivity is like worth its weight in gold, you know?
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And one of my favorite matches, I think I've said this on the podcast before, was when I shot with Lena Michalik. We got like food for a charcuterie board and we put it in a bag and we ate between every stage. And I remember on my way to the match with her, I was like, Sofia, like, you gotta be focused. Like, this is Lena. Like, she's focused. She's, world champion. She's going to be like dialed in. She was so much fun. Like, not that she wouldn't have been fun dialed in, obviously, and not saying she wasn't dialed in, but she was like the perfect balance, like such a good representation of everything. Chatted with everyone in the squad. A lot of people came up to meet her, and chat with her, and just kind of watching her handle that was very, very encouraging. And we had that like nice little balance of everything, and also eating between every stage was such a good idea. Our blood sugar was like very level,
just steady. Yeah.
It was like meats and cheeses.
Noshing, just a little snacks,
Yeah. But absolutely.
I've played with that a lot too.
Tell us.
Some matches I've shot fasted where I don't eat until I'm done shooting.
Really?
Or like, and typically the mornings, that's what I found I like to do, especially for the super early starts. I normally don't eat till later in the day anyways, but so if it's like at Mystery Mountain, first shot was at 6:50 a.m. Brutal.
Okay. Yeah, I was about to say.
We were done by I think we were done by 11 for the AM schedule.
Wow.
Well, like, I'm not going to eat. It's fine. Yeah. And so like just coffee, but I think hydration is the number one key, and electrolytes. Okay. And so I'll have whatever, choose your poison for electrolyte drink the night before. And so I don't know, let's say like 6-7 o'clock at night, I will try to drink like one of these like big basic girl mugs of electrolytes, Yeah. Shout out to Pelican and Cat. But get the electrolytes in your system, like max them out.
Yeah.
So you're hydrated for the next day, because and it's important to hydrate before the match and not during the match too. So like,
yes,
hydration's key. Food is questionable. And then if I'm doing afternoon, I eat light. So I never want to feel full, and I never want to feel hungry. It's just like whatever I need to eat, and as well as I can, I try to just like not eat junk for the match, So right now my biggest vice are those Quest protein chips.
Yeah,
those things are deadly, but I like eating junk food, and those are like, it's kind of junk food, but it's protein, so it's fine. But like berries, big fan of berries during matches and stuff. But don't use your hands, because they're covered in lead, and you'll get high lead count, and you got to watch that, especially if you're shooting a lot. So I just kind of eat it. I just bring it to my mouth like a little trough, and no one wants to share with me for some reason. But
so weird. That's so weird.
So weird. Or one of my buddies here, he brings chopsticks. And so he eats all of his food with chopsticks because he doesn't want lead touching his food. And
I'm stealing that.
Yeah, and he's not Asian. He's just white. And he's like, he shoots an Infinity, and he got matching chopsticks to his open gun.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like, you bougie mofo, But
that's hilarious.
Maybe if I was shooting like $11,000 Infinity, I'd also get some custom chopsticks. But
yeah, of course.
Way,
yeah.
But just kind of finding that balance of not hungry, not full. Because if, like, I've had some matches where like they serve like burgers for lunch, and then we all have like burgers and fries, and then you go to the afternoon session. I'm like, I want to take a nap, dude.
Yep.
I'm out of it.
That would do it.
Or there was one match where like everybody got sick, and
Really?
something wasn't right, and we all was not feeling good, and so we got through it. But it was definitely not the same, and so I typically just like to bring my own food, keep it clean, protein bars.
For sure.
I like jerky. Jerky's a big one. Just to get that protein in.
Yeah, probably like a stick, right? And that way you can hold it, and like you don't have to like grab it out of a bag.
Yeah, so
like a jerky stick.
I haven't done it this year yet, but there's a lot of times last year I'd just make my own jerky. And so
That's
I just bring a little Tupperware thing. Really easy to make too. Tons of recipes online for whatever flavor you want, but just good food, healthy food.
Yeah.
Energy.
Absolutely.
No nachos.
Absolutely.
Nachos mid-match, probably not going to be your best bet. But
for sure.
It does affect it.
Dates are a good one too.
I like dates.
Dates are good.
A little sweet treat, a little natural sweet treat for
exactly.
you. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just not anything too heavy, and just making sure that like you, the listener, and like you and me, we're all going to know our own bodies better than us telling them anything. And so just like whatever you're used to, like I have a friend that just pounds candy all match. He needs to have like sour straws or nerd clusters or whatever. And that's just his thing. And he likes having the candy. And so he's just
candy,
just like he has a whole the little pouches in the Savior range bags, just like the little clear zipper ones, full of candy. Whole match.
Awesome.
He's just snacking. Always eating candy. But figure out what works for you too, and like you can experiment with it. Or like I've found sometimes if I'm empty stomach in the morning, like if I have too much caffeine, I get a little shaky.
I made that mistake.
If you're getting tired in the afternoon, like have an energy drink ready, or like some cold brew or something to like just boost you up a little bit, and try to anticipate when you're going to be tired. So like instead of being like, wow, I bonked out and I don't want to shoot, that's the worst time to have it. Like you want to like preemptively have it so it hits your system. And then at PCSL championship last year, Make Ready Nutrition was one of the sponsors. They had supplements and stuff.
Yeah, I've heard about
canned
them.
Energy drinks. And we made a reel where I like stabbed the energy drink with a knife and then shotgunned it while someone like just started shooting. Awesome clip for the content. But again, we're having fun.
That's awesome.
And I was like 5 shooters down, I think.
Nice.
And it was in the morning. And my AR is really heavy. I shoot like a tactical rifle for competition. It's got like an IR laser on it, and a flashlight, and a suppressor. And it's LMT. It weighs like 13 pounds. It's a beast.
Dang. Okay. Wait, that's actually very heavy. I learned that recently. My rifle's 8 pounds, and I'm like shaking by the time I've like trained and then got up to shoot it. So that's impressive.
It's the same gun like I train law enforcement with, the same gun I go out and do night vision shooting with.
Okay.
And so I was like, I just want to get proficient with a gun. Like, shit hits the fan. Like, that's the gun I'm grabbing out of the safe, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So I've just kind of stayed pretty true of shooting that. But anyways, shotgun it, caffeine dump, 5 shooters down. That was just enough time for it to like hit my bloodstream in full. And the first 8 targets were like offhand knockdown steel at like 65 yards. And I'm holding this 13-pound gun, and I'm just watching my reticle just move all over the place. I'm like, literally as I'm shooting, going like, damn, you're dumb, dude. Why'd you shotgun that energy drink before you shot? And there's like nothing. And we got through it. There's nothing you can really do. You just got to shoot it. And but I was like, yep, my crosshairs are moving quite a lot. And,
that's hilarious. Yes.
Yeah, but we got the content. And so
that's what matters. I mean, priorities. Yeah, I love a good latte with goat milk. So I had this like really good idea to take a goat milk latte to a match.
Take a goat with you to the range.
Exactly. Just like milk it at the stage. Yeah. Exactly.
Right in a little wagon. Yep.
Totally. Actually, no, he walks. But yeah, I see. Oh, you mean like tow wagon? Yeah, with my like cappuccino maker. Yeah. Exactly. Jackery to power it. Okay, so I did that, and the goat milk, I guess, got like warm in the sun, and that did not go well for me. So I've turned to either just black coffee or energy drinks, but I have a rule with water. Like I have to have an electrolyte filled water. And what you said about hydration the night before is so true. My master's in kinesiology, and we talked about this a lot. Yeah. Thank you. And we would talk about like hydration occurring before, and like it's so hard to remember that. So I love that you brought that up. It's so real. This is not a topic we've had on this podcast, by the way. I love that we're on to like competition snacks. Yeah, this is great.
Yeah,
for sure.
But it's a real thing though. You know, like I don't. There's some guys I know that just get absolutely tanked and just drink heavy every night of a match because it's like their social time to go out. And I was like, I don't know how you operate. I'm just
like before the match.
No, like, so they'll shoot day one, go to the restaurant, like everybody's eating, and then just get absolutely tanked.
Trash.
And then just sleep whatever, wake up, and then go shoot. I'm like, why? And they're like, oh, like, my goal isn't to do well at the match, it's just to survive.
Okay.
And I was like, got it. So this is how you stay in your zone, is just being miserable. But hey, it worked for some people, and you'd be surprised, because there's some top shooters that can just put it down, but either way, it's just it does affect you. Sleep is another huge one too.
Okay.
And I am guilty of not do as I say, not as I do. But
got it.
Because I'm a night owl, and so like those morning starts sometimes are brutal for me. Where I'm like, the 6:50 a.m. first shot, I like had to, that was a 4:45 morning for me, and I'm always up till like midnight, 1 a.m., whatever. And so I was just like, my body's like, I want to stay up. I was like, no, you need to go to sleep. And I'm just racing, and there's a million things I'm thinking about. And so, but sleep is huge, where even like today I was like feeling tired, and I was going to force myself to go practice. And then I was like, is it even worth it? Like, are those rounds going to be good rounds that you're going to shoot down range? Or are you just going to go through the motions of doing it? And in my mind, I was like, you know what? I've got stuff to do in the shop, and I'll just dry fire a little bit. And the range has been closed because we had like torrential downpour here. So it's been closed for like 4 days. So I'd have to drive to the desert. And it's just like a little extra process to the whole ordeal, where it's like, a 2-hour range session turns into like a 3.5-hour range session. I was like, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to spend all that time to go do it when I'm feeling tired. And again, it's just knowing your own body more than anything else. But however much sleep your body requires, like I have some friends, 5 hours, they're good for the day.
Right.
Don't know how they do it. Good for them. I'm like around 7. And so if I get like a solid 7, I'm feeling good. If I can majors, I try to give myself an extra buffer zone just in case. Cause like there's been matches where like the hotel's bad, or like there's some other reason why you can't sleep that well. Like Nationals 2022, I was gonna stay in my truck because I have a big camper on the back of my truck, and I like overland to do all that stuff. I was gonna sleep in my truck for Nationals, and then it was like supposed to rain and stuff, and I was like, that sounds miserable. I don't want to be like wet and sleeping in my truck.
Yeah.
All the hotels were booked already.
Oh shoot.
So I piggybacked with my buddy who had like 2 beds, but the hotel was just like full, like it just smelled like mildew. And I was like, this is terrible. I was like, I just sleep in the parking lot in my truck. And we were kind of in a sketchy area because he didn't research beforehand. And I was like, it was the worst sleep I've gotten for a major. Because like you just wake up with a headache. Like as soon as you walk in the building, you're just like, oh, this is terrible.
Oh yeah.
And getting you out of that fun zone because you have to deal with mold. But sleep is huge. Hydration is huge. Snacks are important. And just finding that balance so you're just optimized, because like you will, like, it doesn't matter like how much you practice and stuff. If you are not up to, like, if you can't think, there's no point doing it, because it's all thinking, it's all processing. So if your brain's not firing on all cylinders, it's detrimental to whatever you're doing. So, or like I was like, people tell me that they've stayed up all night dry firing right before a match, and I was like, dude, your reload's not going to change over a 12-hour period. Whatever your reload is going to be your reload skill, or your draw or whatever it is. And like dry firing a little bit every day is going to do a lot more than a big volume of dry fire right before it happens, and losing sleep over it. I'm like,
Yes.
it's just dumb.
Yeah.
And
it's like test cramming.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Same
Although
concept.
I was a big procrastinator when I was in school.
I
Got good
get
grades,
that.
but it was fine. And you know what? Good things come with time, so procrastination is a virtue, right? But
Absolutely. Yeah. When you say it like
yeah,
that, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, I did
But
that. I did that forever. And I realized that did not cut it when I got to biochem honors classes because there was just too much information. I was one
applaud
of
you for getting through that.
Thank you. Oh, I barely got through it.
But
If
you got
you
through
want,
it. That's all that matters. No
that's a
one's
good
asking for your
point.
transcript now.
That's so true. I will say though, I barely passed biochem honors 2. I went to my professor and I bawled my eyes out and I was like, I need this to get into medical school. And I went in there at first. He was actually working on a new model of hemoglobin protein, which we've had a model of it for years. And he found that there was like another component to its structure that was like kind of a hot take on it, but he was like really deep into it. It was his life's work. So I like read up on it, went in there and like talked to him about it for hours. And then before I left, I was like, listen. And then I just started crying. And then he gave me a passing grade. So,
Cool.
And then, yeah, so that was around the time I was like, oh, this does not work. Like I can't just slide by anymore. And I'm realizing it again with competition shooting. Not that like my goal is to become a GM, but recently I have been wanting to take it more seriously. And I've realized what happens when I don't sleep as well. And sleep is the same as hydration. One day of night of sleep deprivation takes 3 days to get back to normal. Yes. My dad is actually a board certified sleep specialist and he's like a triple boarded cardiologist, internal medicine, and sleep doctor. He'll come on the podcast someday. Yet? No, you just read my mind. He's actually coming on soon. I'm setting up a studio in my office, so he's going to be one of the first people in person.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Super interesting. I'd be in for that for sure.
Hell yeah. Okay, I'll make sure you know about it when it comes out. But yeah, he's excited about it too. But he always reminds me when I don't sleep well, he's like, Sofia, it takes 3 days. And I'm like, I know, Dad. Like I'm in debt. I'm in sleep debt right now. Yeah. And he'll be like, yeah, you are. So I'm glad you're talking about this.
Help though. Like you could get out of debt by taking a little siesta in the day.
They can, and there's like a magic formula to that. It's like 20 minutes or something. I haven't looked into that recently, so couldn't offer any.
A couple weekends ago, I ran myself completely exhausted and all the stuff going on during the week. Then like drove up to Phoenix and had some meetings and stuff, and then shot a match. Stayed at my buddy's house, shot a match the next morning. And I was like tired going into Friday, like waking up Friday, I was already exhausted. I was like, wow, I have to like drive 4 hours a day. I have like these meetings. I have a match I need to shoot, all this stuff. And then I came home Saturday. I was like, cool. I've got like a dinner or something that night. I was like, I have like 4 hours that I can get like this other stuff done. Cause like I work for myself. So I always feel like I need to be working and like the to-do list is never ending. So I was like, oh, I can pack belt orders or I can answer these emails or whatever, whatever's on the list. And so I was like, but I'm going to take just like a little 20-minute nap first because I'm feeling tired. And I had to drive from Phoenix back to Tucson. It was like 2 hours and I was exhausted. And then I ended up sleeping for 5 hours and waking up 10 minutes before the dinner. And I was like, I need to listen to my body a little bit more.
Yep. Yeah.
And that it's a little much. And so just finding that balance and, that leads into like major match prep as well, where leading up to major matches, I try to set myself up to do whatever I want. So if I want to go work out, I'll go work out. If I want to be lazy and eat popcorn and watch Netflix, I'll be lazy and eat popcorn and watch Netflix. But the biggest thing leading up to a match, like I have IPSC Nationals, not this weekend, but the next weekend. It's probably already been shot by the time you post this podcast, but like probably starting on like Wednesday, I'm just going to not stress about anything and just I'll get my stuff done. You have to get your responsibilities done, whatever that is. But as far as my choice of free time, or it's like, if I want to go practice, I'll go practice. If I want to be a couch potato, I'll go be a couch potato. If I want to tinker with my guns, I'll go tinker with my guns. But it's just getting yourself in a relaxed state where you're just feeding into your desires, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word, but either way, it's just like whatever you want to do, just do that, and you're going to be happy. You're going to be more relaxed, and I think it's good preparation for it. Rather than before, I'd be like, I need to shoot 500 rounds a day for 3 weeks leading up to the match, every single day, and like regardless of how I feel, I need to go shoot it because I don't know how I'm going to feel at the match. So if I'm tired, I need to shoot tired, so I know how to feel shooting tired. If it's raining, I need to go shoot raining. And like the other day, it was like raining here on and off, and it was like kind of chilly for Arizona. Like, I don't want to go practice. You know, and just I'm sure there's some other GM that's being like, that's wrong mindset. But again, I just want to be relaxed. I want to feel good about myself. And, you know, it's like, and I don't want to stress, just minimizing stress, because that does just, it's so detrimental on your body. And like being dehydrated causes stress on your body. Being sleep deprived causes stress on your body. You know, depending on the food you're eating can cause stress on your body, or artificial stress that you're just making on yourself, where you're giving yourself this requirement to go shoot, even though like you don't want to go do that or something, you know?
Right.
But it feeds in a lot to just that natural state of your body of doing what you want, and you're probably going to do better because you just feel better. You don't have as much cortisol in your system, and you're just living life, whatever you want to do.
Absolutely.
Like maybe I'll make a cheesecake, you know, whatever.
Yeah, obviously. Yes. I love that. I love that you value recovery. It sounds like one word you were describing was recovery, and also just like listening to your body, like you said before. I can't imagine that there is a cut and dry way to do all of this, but what you've done for yourself obviously has worked for you. So if anything, someone's listening that maybe is on that extreme and they're like, shoot, no matter what. But you're offering this other side and helping them find that balance. And that's what's important. So attention all knife enthusiasts. Today's episode is sponsored by the one and only Cold Steel Knives. For over 3 decades, Cold Steel has been leading the way in the knife industry, dedicated to creating the world's strongest and sharpest blades. They've pioneered countless innovations that have become industry hallmarks of quality and sophistication. From their revolutionary checked Kraton handles to the iconic Tonto point blade systems, Cold Steel's progressive accomplishments have set new standards in the field. Their trademark triad locking mechanism remains unrivaled by any of their competitors, proving its unbeatable performance time and time again. Their impressive lineup goes beyond just knives. They offer swords, tomahawks, machetes, cutlery, and a wide range of tools for everyday carry. Trusted by military, law enforcement, emergency services, self-defense professionals, and martial arts practitioners, Cold Steel is renowned for quality, strength, reliability, and dependability. Where strength, safety, and performance come together for over 3 decades and counting, use code SHESHIELD at checkout, that's SHESHIELD, to save and to support the pod.